Hi, this is Amir again. Today I'm going to show some arcade expression language in pop-ups and attribute rules based on a community post. This is a community post on the Parcel Fabric community and was submitted by Adam, and then Diane chimed in. And it's not exactly what Adam wanted, but but what we have here is the ability or requirement to update a parcel name in a sequence. Now, you might argue that Arcade already has a function for that called next sequence value. This method looks at a table you have in your geodatabase and fetches the next available value. But for parcels, this is not always applicable because we want the next increment number in a book and page, for example, or in a block of parcels. And therefore, this method will not work well for parcels. So I found some good test data from Riverside County in California. You can see this data has a book and page field here. And this data is, so thank you Riverside County for having this data available publicly and downloadable from your website. Here we have a sample of this data with parcels. These are not in the Parcel Fabric yet, and it doesn't matter. This is just a simple feature class, and it doesn't matter because simple feature classes are exactly what the Parcel Fabric controls, right? So it doesn't matter if I create now an attribute rule in a controlled feature class or non-controlled feature class. They are both feature classes because the Parcel Fabric controls simple feature classes. So for this experiment, this is good enough. And another thing that we'll see soon, I needed to create a book and page. Now, one of the things I like to create, to use is pop-ups. So if you go and right-click on a layer and go to configure pop-ups, you can go down here to expressions and start to create your own arcade expressions. And the advantage of this is that, one, you can return any value in the expression, kind of a breakpoints, and see what the value is. And it's faster than saving it to a schema and as an attribute rule. So it accelerates a bit the development process. So for example, let's look at this expression. So this was the first, let's see what it does first. So the first thing to create is a parcel feature set. So basically a collection of parcels. And we look now, because it's a pop-up in the dollar map, we are in the context of the map. And there's a layer called parcels. So this is the layer name, not the table name. And we don't need everything in that table. In that layer, we just need the name, the book, and the page. And then the book can be whatever the attribute book is, feature.book, feature.page. And we also create an empty max parcel number here. Now to find the maximal parcel number, first we make sure that the book and page are not empty. And then we create a SQL query here. So how do you create a SQL query and make sure it's right? So let's just, for a second, just return that variable SQL here and press on the pop-up and see what it returns. And another thing that is useful, go to your map, do a select by attribute, and you can see it's already book equal and page. This is the query we want, right? And view it in a SQL view here. So I hope you can see it. It's big enough. So this is what we want to see when we now identify a parcel. So it's going to be the first expression, and we can see that it's exactly the same here, right? So once you know that you get the right string, and this is why pop-ups are useful, you can now filter the data. So the feature set that we created here on the top contains all the parcels. We need to filter them. So we just want the parcels in that specific book and page, and then we want to check what is the maximum number in that. So the command filters the feature set by the SQL query, and then we want to find out the maximum number of parcels. So there's a command called max. We look in the filtered parcels in the name field. So now we have that, and now we want to increment that. So the increment is 1 in this case, and if the parcel number, or it could be empty if there's a problem. So if it's not empty, do this. Take the maximum number, it's a string, make it into a number, increment it. Once it's incremented, move it back to a text, and return that value. So that's great, and it works. Show you, that's the first expression here, right? And it returns the next available number. I don't know why we don't see the labeling here, but maybe I'm not zoomed in enough. So here they are. So that's the next available number in this specific book and page, which is book 12, page 11. But if we were to now move this into an attribute rule, it will not work, because a newly created feature does not have the book and page value in it. What we need to do is find the book and page value from another layer. So many organizations have a book and page feature layer, and you can see here I created one by dissolving parcels. I'm sure they have better ones in the county. And we can intersect the feature we are creating with that layer to fetch the book and page field. So let's see how that would look in a pop-up first. So same, first line is the same. We create the feature set of the parcels, but now we also create a feature set of the book and page layer. And for the book and page layer here, we want the book and the page attributes. And now, to get the book and page, we need to intersect the centroid of the feature with the book and page feature set and get the first feature. And this is how we get the book and page in this case. Okay? And from here on, everything is exactly the same. And this is why when I click on a parcel, it doesn't matter. You'll see that both methods using intersect return the same exact value. And we can click in different books and we'll get different values. But it will be the same. So now we can take the second expression and move it into an attribute rule. To do that, we'll right click on the layer again. Now we are designing the schema. So data design, attribute rules. And let's see what has changed. So the first thing that has changed is that we are not accessing the layer. It doesn't know about the map. This is a feature class. It could be exposed in many layers, in many maps. So we want to use the $data store here. And the second thing we want to use is not the layer name. In this case, it's by coincidence the same name, parcels, but we want to use the table name. And if we are using enterprise geodatabase, we want to use the fully qualified name. That's the name with the 3 strings and the 2 dots in between. So you want to use that name here. And except for this, these are the same things. Now, remember that every time you create a feature, it will populate the next available number. But with the expression we had before, it only returns the next number, and it will not update the book and page fields, which means that if you create a second feature and it will filter all the parcels within this book and page, it will not find that parcel because the book and page fields will be empty. So with Arcade, and this is also more efficient, you can update multiple fields in the same time. And this is how you do it. Instead of returning just the value max parcel number, which we could have done, we return this dictionary called result, in which you can provide the attributes. And we are going to update 3, not just the name field, we're also going to update the book and the page at the same time. And let's see how that looks. So we are basically going to the create features, and we're going to create some features. Let's do some circles. I'm going to create them on top of existing book and pages. So here's parcel number 1. Now zoom in a bit so the label will come, and we can see that we got the same thing. The pop-up told us ends with 0040. Let's create another parcel. So now we expect, of course, for 1. No, we are in different book and page. So let's create it on top of this parcel. And here we have for 1. I can create square parcels too. Oh, let's go for a square one now. So the shape, of course, doesn't matter. It matters where the centroid of the new feature is. And here we have 0, 4, 2, and you get the hang of it. Every time we create, let's look at one of those parcels we create, 0, 0, 4, 3. So let's open the attribute table, and we'll see that the name has been populated, as well as down here, the book and page, right? And this is for book 12, page 11. And we can always turn on the book and page layer to see that, yeah, here it was a different book than here by coincidence. So this is why it returned the next highest number, of course, in book 172 and 69, not here. So I hope you find this valuable. You can apply this also to different schemes. For example, if you have a block and then you have the highest number within, the partial number within that block, you can also use the same methodology. I'm going to publish this video together with the project package that includes those expressions on the community, so you can open the project, play around with it, take it, apply it to your data sets, and tweak it if you need to. Hope you find it useful. Leave a thumb up if you find it useful, and happy parcel mapping.